right, new V collection by Arturia, V9. And in this one, we're getting some new types of instruments, these Augmented series that we got a taste of last month with the Augmented Strings intro instrument, which was free for a while. I posted a video on that one. And now they've got Augmented Strings, the full version, and Augmented Voices. They're kind of this hybrid samples and synthesis type stuff, and a nice addition to a collection that is mostly made up of instruments that are emulations of classic synthesizers. And by V9 here, we're up to 32 instruments, over 14,000 patches, so kind of an insane amount of stuff for you to play around with. They're NKS compatible, so you can use your Complete Control keyboards or your Maschine to browse patches and to listen to patches. And just to give you the highlights of the best things in the new version, we've got a new split between the Prophet 5 and the Prophet VS. Those were combined into one product that you could switch between before. So now they're two separate products and they've been completely redesigned. Very important synthesizers. We've got the new Korg MS-20, and that one is going to get a lot of people very excited. And all of the semi-modular nature of this synthesizer is all functional. So of course you can grab cables and move them and route them just like the original piece of hardware. You can even add your own external signal to this synth, which a lot of people are going to really love. We've got a brand new CS80V. I'll look at that one later as well. Completely redesigned and rebuilt. It looks a little bit different and sounds fantastic. We've got the SQ80V, which I did a video on, and that one's now included with V9. We've got the Piano V, which has been updated. We'll look at that later. We've got Augmented Voices and Augmented Strings, which are brand new types of virtual instruments for Arturia. And it also comes with Analog Lab V, which is a way for you to find patches through all of the instruments. So you can see all of the instruments down here below in Analog Lab V. And then you can just search pad and you'll see all of the pads that are available in all of the synths. Analog Lab V would be a really great place to start if you're not really thinking, I want a certain synthesizer, I just want a certain sound. So I've got a whole bunch of videos on Arturia stuff, so I'll make sure I put a playlist in the description. And then I would say, when it comes to this kind of synthesis stuff, make sure you know your synthesis basics. So I have a synthesis basics video I'll also put a link to in the description. And that one will apply to almost all of these virtual instruments in some capacity, whether it's talking about filters, modulation, oscillators, all those basic components that seem to crop up in some way or another in almost all of these instruments. So all we're going to do in this video now is play around with some of the new sounds and just sort of get a taste of what's in there. I'm sure Arturia will be coming out with some very detailed videos on some of the new instruments, but we'll just look at some of the sounds of the new instruments and play around with them a bit. Oh, by the way, I'm not getting paid to make the video, but they send me the software for free. That's why I always put paid promotion at the beginning of my videos. So I've got a couple of patches loaded up here already, including this little Korg MS-20 sequence, which is hi-hats. I'm just going to make a sampler track here in Cubase and then drop this onto the sampler track, and then we're going to slice that up, turn it to slice mode. Now I'm going to drag that onto my track. Maybe we can do some fun sort of 30-second note kind of glitchy type things. And then let's look at another patch. We're going to look at the Prophet VS. We're going to come back to the Korg MS-20 because that one has a lot to it. It's a brand new one and it's just really exciting. So the Prophet VS has been in the collection in the past, but it was connected to the Prophet 5 virtual instrument. So it was like you had two different sides to the Prophet synthesizer, which is kind of strange because they're very different synthesizers. Apparently with the Prophet VS and the Prophet 5, these new versions of them, they've been redesigned. So redesigned from the ground up and supposedly sound better. So here's the Prophet VS, and let's have a listen to some of these patches. So when you see patches like this, 04 string 1, it's because it is based on the original factory preset, which we can see over here. So if you had this synthesizer, this would be one of the stock presets that you'd have in it. Okay, so with this one, it'd be nice to add some movement to it. So we've got our filter cutoffs, which is going to be the most obvious place to reach for some change. And what I want to do is assign that to the mod wheel. So if we click to the Advanced tab, right now we can see the mod wheel is assigned to LFO1 amplitude and LFO2. Double click on those and get rid of them. And then let's just go over to cutoff and crank this up. See what happens. We can crank it all the way up. So that'll be good. Now I can just put some modulation in there. Just gonna put that in. Okay, let's also pull up a CS80V. This is another updated and completely redesigned virtual instrument. So we've already had the CS80V3. Now this is CS80V4, just I guess it's the fourth version of the CS80, which is a little confusing with the V9 and all that. So here we can see the old one, and here is the new one. And we've got a much different upper section as well. It'd be fun to do a little comparison video to see what they've changed. And I guess it boils down to, can you really recreate the original patches, like for Blade Runner and stuff that were made with the original CS80? And does it really make that much of a difference? So here on the new one, you can see we've got basically two oscillators. This is their first oscillator on the top, second oscillator on the bottom. VCO, your oscillator right here, you've got your filter here, and then you've got your amplifier section, envelope section right here. Let's play with some patches on this one and see what we can find. I'm going to go to type, and we're going to look for, let's try some plucked stuff on this one. Okay, I like this, got sort of Jean-Michel Jarre sort of feel to it. Okay, another new instrument that I've got a video on, but I'll just add a little bit to it right now, is the SQ80. And this one is now part of the collection, was a new instrument, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, something like that. And this one was a lot of fun to make a video on, so make sure you check that video out. Let's try some sounds on this one. Let's go to type. Let's go for another sequencer type patch. For this next patch, I've got Pavlov's Dream. So as for drums, there aren't any drum machines in Analog Lab, but almost every synthesizer has some drum sounds in it. And that was the way drum sounds were made on analog synthesizers before there were drum machines. So a lot of these old synthesizers you can get some drum sounds out of course. And if we just go over to types in Analog Lab, then we can go to drums and let's go to kick. So let's go through and try some of these out. Okay, so let's just go with this one here, our ARP 2600 bass. I'll put some bass drum in there. So let's check out the CS80 again, and we'll go for a lead line. So I'm just going to go to the library. We'll type in, oh, soft lead. That actually might be nice. And then let's go to the Advanced tab, and we'll look at the effects. We'll crank up the amount of delay. So we've got ping pong delay. And let's go to sync. And we're going to go sync dotted. And then let's put on some reverb. So we'll go to, now let's go to a preset. Let's go to a hall. we're going to look at the augmented strings, augmented voices, and there's some updates to the piano as well, so we'll look a little bit at that. And then I'm going to go dig into the Korg MS-20 on the Maschine and just show you a fun little tip when you're working with the Maschine with these instruments. Augmented strings, this one was teased a month ago when we got Augmented Strings Intro for free, and I have a video on that one, but the full version here gives you this advanced tab, which of course we were missing in that one. Everyone was probably like, well, here's a sequence, but I can't do anything with it. I can't change the rhythm. Well, of course you can do that now. Quite a complex system that they've got in here, but really beautiful. It looks really nice. I'm really impressed with how things are looking. You know, you've got your different layers for your sounds, modulation, arpeggiator, effects, and then your macros for assigning to certain knobs. So let's just listen to a few of these patches and then we'll see how hard it is to dig into some of the detailed settings on these instruments. I'll try putting something in with this one here. Let's try one more augmented strings patch. Let's do something that's kind of rhythmic. So I'm going to go to type. Okay, this one's kind of neat. Orange. Let's go with that one, but you can hear that it's swung. So let's go over to the advanced tab and we'll go to arpeggiator and see what's going on. The swing is set to 62%. Let's set. So apparently 50% or 50 gets a swing of 0. Is that right? I'm not sure if I'm totally in love with that. Let's just try a different patch. Yeah, I like this Pitts Hopper one here. Let's go with that one. Okay, so if I want the tone of that one to come out a little bit more, or I can crank up the synth right here. Let's go to volume. So it's kind of neat. It's kind of like giving us an attack of this bass. So let's leave that in there. Okay, so let's try augmented voices and see what we've got in here. We go to the advanced tab. And when they say it's sample and synthesis, really you have the ability of using a synthesizer and a sampler. So if we click on this tab here, we can see we got analog, granular, harmonic, and wavetable synthesis. Very cool. And if I turn off layer B here, and then let's turn off layer A. Okay, so layer B. And then we got the sampler. So let's turn on the sampler. Let's take that one down an octave. in comparison to this one. Let's go to the synth, turn it on. Oh wow. Modulation, which we can assign to anything. And then we've got our arpeggiator, which I already had a look at, effects, and macros. So let's just copy some of these strings down here and see what happens. Let's try one more augmented voices, and we'll just add a little bit of like a lead type thing. So we'll go type. Then we've got this morph knob in the middle, which is probably going between the two different layers. Let's crank up the effects. And then let's go over to our advanced tab and look at our effects that we've got in there. We'll click on the main tab. There's our delay and our reverb. Okay, let's try putting something in there. Okay, so the piano V has also been updated. So we'll look at piano V3. Beautiful pictures here popping up of the different types of piano. Let's just see what else they have in here in terms of patches. Really nice piano sounds in there, and some different types of pianos as well. I'm sure they've been redesigned and re-recorded and all that kind of stuff. But so now we're going to go over to Maschine for a second, and we'll play around with some drum sounds from the Korg MS-20. Okay, so here is my little idea with the Korg MS-20 sounds only. I just wanted to show you this thing that you could do, of course, with the Maschine, is assigning different virtual instruments to different pads, because it's a little hard to do that in other pieces of software. But the way Machine's set up you can load a totally different virtual instrument on each one of these sounds, and then you get to play them. So each one of these pads here has a different Korg MS-20 loaded on it. And then what I did is I've got these two kicks that are separate. So if I click on pad mode right here, you can see that I've linked this one to group 1. So if I take that off like it normally is, now you're just hearing those instruments by themselves. But if I link them, I can have a layered kick drum sound of 2 Korg MS-20s, and I don't have to play them both at the same time. So as you can see, I've got on this one, I've got this Korg set up. So that's this sound right here. And then on the top one, I've got this sound right here. So now I'm just triggering these synths, and of course we could sample them. That's part of what we do in Maschine. That's part of what makes Maschine so fun. But in this case, it might be kind of interesting because you could have some kind of modulation happening on your hats over time. Oh yeah, this one was just a loop. Just held it down. So watch this. So that's all I was doing for this little instrument. I forgot. I thought this was just played hi-hats. But we've actually got the sequencer in the Korg going here. So the fun of leaving the virtual instrument open instead of sampling it is that you can then have some modulation changing over time with your patch. So, and our computers are so fast now that loading up a whole bunch of Korg MS-20s isn't going to bring it to its knees. Like on this little song here, on my super high-powered MacBook Pro, you can see the CPU is just barely getting touched. So just a little tip for working with Maschine. The other sounds that I've got in here are this little pad, which is an MS-20. Really nice patch. And then we've got this one. Beautiful lead. Love that. Check out Dr. Mix's video. He's got a great video of a real Korg MS-20, and he calls the synthesizer one of his 2 desert island synths. So that's some pretty high praise for the original hardware MS-20. So I hope that gives you a little bit deeper insight into these incredible instruments. I'm sure they're going to have some great videos breaking down some of the new details on Arturia's channel, but this just gives you an idea of using some of these sounds in a real world situation. And you can't really go wrong with this collection. It is huge. So make sure you check out the links in the description for other videos, hit that subscribe button and all that, and we'll see you in the next video.